So today we're going to be diving into a style that's basically the polar opposite of minimalism, and that is maximalist graphic design. Some people say it's way too chaotic and busy, while others absolutely love it, and it's precisely what inspired them to become designers in the first place. But either way, maximalism is like the everything goes, experiment heavy type of design for those who just want to break out of typography rules, layer textures, and really just go all in on creating something really, really unique. It's important to note that while minimalism and maximalism are very different, neither one of them is better than the other. It's really just personal preference. I think that we can kind of get into this loop where people that like minimalism and functionality kind of poo-poo on maximalist stuff, and then the exact opposite where people are like, oh, that's, you know, you're not being super creative and you're locking yourself in a box. They just don't like minimalism, but they both have their time and their place, and both are amazing when done well. So whether you're obsessed with bold visuals or you just want to loosen up the boundaries and create something super unique, it's worth understanding why maximalism exists, where it came from, and how it works when it's done well. Unlike minimalism, where less is more, maximalism is kind of like more is more. That doesn't mean close your eyes and just throw stuff at the artboard, of course. There's definitely a difference between well done design and something that's lacking a bit of taste and direction. But before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of history. Maximalist design has its roots in art movements like Rococo, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Baroque, where excess was a sign of luxury and grandeur. Looking at these art and interior pieces, looks nothing like modern maximalist, but I'm right and wrong in saying that. The aim was always full cup. Maxed out canvas, lots of color and depth. In a modern era, we saw it pop up again with pop art, punk zines, the Memphis group in the 80s, which are either famous or infamous for you. And today it's wild collage graphics and layered type experiments with textures and different blending modes. It's always been a bit of a rebellion against the less is more mantra. Instead, maximalism focuses on filling the entire frame, clashing some patterns, mixing typography, and when done intentionally, all that visual noise creates a vibe. It feels alive and layered and not random at all. I mean, I can throw a bunch of stuff in a trash bag. That's not maximalism. It still has direction, and there's still a desired outcome in mind with this style. So what actually makes something maximalist? I mean, first up, the layout. In maximalist design, you're intentionally filling your canvas, but in a way that feels dynamic instead of messy and crowded. Overlapping elements, multiple focal points, dense patterns, it's just pretty much all fair game. A strong maximalist layout still has structure there underneath the surface though. Designers will often use an underlining grid or repeating motif to keep the chaos in check so things don't get too crazy. The trick is letting your eye bounce around without getting lost. Think of it like organized clutter. It might look wild when you're creating it or when you first look at it, but if you give yourself a second and look closer, every piece is there on purpose. Now, this takes quite a bit of practice and some taste making to have something so layered and wild still have a focal point, and a lot to do with, you know, color, type choice, and size of objects, but more on that in a minute. One of my favorite parts of the maximalist design is the use of textures and layers. This could be scanned paper, ripped edges, gritty, grain, or 3D depth stacked on top of photos and type. All of these things, when done well, makes it super tactile. It makes you want to just reach out and touch it, even though when it's on its screen. Everything feels anti-digital coded. Nothing says technology is our downfall more than using technology to create a poster that says technology is our downfall. Collage and layering are huge in this space, grabbing bits of imagery, vintage illustrations, type, color blocks, and throwing them together in unexpected ways while almost making a mood board, but it's the final product instead of just what you use to get inspiration to make the final product. And these pieces could either be rough cutouts like you would cutting an image out of a magazine for a scrapbook, or cleaner, using something like a legit background remover to cleanly remove an object from background and isolate it, which you can do in one click with Kittl's background remover, by the way. Shameless plug. Typography is where maximalism really gets fun and tricky and sometimes frustrating, but like I said, it just takes some taste making and some practice. Unlike minimalism, where you might stick to one clean sans serif font with different weights, maximalist design is about mixing and matching and getting somebody to look at it for the longest amount of time as possible. All fonts here are kind of fair game. Basically, it's anything that matches the vibe. So it could be one minimal sans serif, or it could be a combo of serif and script, or some super creative display fonts, which we also have a bunch of in Kittl. Sometimes you'll even see multiple typefaces on one line, or even in the same word, mixing fonts, text intentionally distorted, roughened, and stylized. Sometimes the goal here isn't really legibility at first, it's to create emotion and impact. Now on to color. You can absolutely stick to the 2 or 3 color method to make things very focused and pop. But this is also where you can go, all in. Vivid hues, unexpected color combinations, gradients, pops of neon and metallic with textures. Maximalist color palettes are really about creating energy. Sometimes they're inspired by vintage posters or the bold prints that you'd see in fashion or interior design movements like the Memphis movement, which while I may not like it, I really do appreciate the color that's involved. The colors themselves carry weight in a design. Darker colors feel heavier and lighter colors they feel lighter. And using the mix of them to make things balanced in your composition. You can anchor all that chaos by using repeating tones, or you can use high contrast colors just to lead your eye around the design. A good trick is to choose one dominant color and then just use variations of that color tone throughout the design, i.e. different shades of red. And using a dominant color to help highlight the subject of the design never hurts either. If you have a bunch of colors in the design that are pretty much similar weight-wise, and then your subject is super light or super dark in comparison to that, it can help you create some visual contrast so your subject doesn't get drowned out in your entire composition. Inspiration and experimentation can get fun with this one. If you want to get into this style, just use Pinterest. We're not ashamed of Pinterest boards around here. Just type in maximalist graphic design. It's as easy as that. Collage art or editorial layouts with bold type. Save what grabs you, add it to a board, then experiment by recreating it so you can start kind of getting the hang of how different things interact with each other. The goal here isn't just to figure out what we like, which is a wonderful thing and sometimes hard to figure out. We also want to figure out why we like it. We want to learn the building block for the thing that we like, not just the thing itself. Now, if you're watching this and already getting a little nervous because you're thinking that you're not super good enough to do this design style, or you're not good enough with Photoshop, or the program you're using right now isn't really suited for experimentation, you want to drag stuff on and off the artboard and you can't do that, you can try Kittl today for free. And we actually have a ton of free templates that you can open up and interact with, even incorporate into your own designs. Taking projects from experienced designers and just picking them apart is a pretty great way to get a grip on how things work and go together in a composition, as well as saving maybe some of the fonts or color palettes that you like when interacting with the design. It's like looking at references, but actually being able to separate the layers and pick things apart. Also try mixing images together, clash patterns, or play with type in the ways you normally wouldn't. It's kind of freeing because there aren't really hard and fast rules. You just kind of allow yourself to go into sandbox mode. And then when you start to feel resistance of kind of not liking the design or something about it, don't just immediately, back down and close the project. Follow through on the idea and then make changes or go into a different direction. I also have some awesome books on maximalist design linked below on my book list. Some are for learning, others are for decorating because they just look really, really awesome. So check that out. Maximalist design shows up in so many cool places: music posters, festival branding, album covers, events, editorial spreads, conferences, and especially on social media where attention is basically just like currency. Fashion brands, indie magazines, and creative agencies love this vibe because it feels very fresh and expressive. So when they get a client that they can do some maximalist work with, it's just a really, really great time. It can be a great way to stand out in maybe a realm or an area where things feel a little too polished and corporate and you just want to kind of be the odd man out. So is maximalism timeless. I'd say it comes in waves. It's always been a counterbalance to the minimalism design style. When people get bored of too much simplicity, they crave more texture, more attitude, so they go to maximalist. And because there are infinite ways to layer, mash, remix, maximalism never really just dies, it just evolves and grows with us. Then when people get sensory overload, they go running back to minimalism, so it ends up being a nice dance that keeps things fresh, innovative, and both of them end up being timeless. So that is the world of maximalist graphic design. I would love to know what you think. Is this your thing, or does it make your head hurt? Drop a comment down below. If you want to experiment with bold type, collage textures, and just this overall kind of maximalist design style, I've got some templates and fonts that are perfect for this style. Check out the links in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Kittl YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of these kind of design style videos. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one.